Ezra Hashem. Today's daf is, hold on. Shalom Aleichem. Ketuvim.
Hi. I called, was 8:30. The meeting is not on. You called back. You hung up.
Okay.
You hung up. I called again. Again, the same thing. I don't know, something wrong.
Okay. Bist du, Baruch Hashem. Noch nicht ungeheben.
Yeah, but at the time was all this 8:30, and she hung up on me. Then she didn't try again later. The start. Then I called the next time. Again, the same thing. Twice she hung up on me.
Okay. Okay. It's the Zoom probably, something with the Zoom. But I started at 8:30, 8:29. So okay, fine. Baruch Hashem, Mizandu, Mahal Shain, Unfang for the Gemara Daf Chov Gimel. Hi Sheldon, we're beginning. Today's daf.
Okay.
It's a kleiner daf. It's a well-known daf in the Gemara. Masechta Nazir, I got it in the Gemara. So
maybe that's why she doesn't want to bother with her kleiner daf.
Yeah. Maybe that's fine. Okay, so the Mishnah says, the Mishnah Daf Chav Gimel Amud Aleph says, if a woman makes a neder that she's going to become a Nazir, okay? And she was drinking wine and metamal mesim. A regular woman, a married woman, she made herself a Nazir, and then she starts drinking wine and metamal mesim. Now, the husband, then after she's drinking wine and touched mesim, the husband was made for the neder. That's how we're going to learn pshat. So then the Mishnah says, well, the husband is not oiker, uprooting the neder as if she wasn't the Nazir prior. The husband, when she's made for the neder, it's from this point and onward she's not a Nazir. But she was drinking wine and touching dead bodies when she was a Nazir. So therefore, Hareza Seifeget Eswarboim, she's going to get Malchus because she violated her Naziris, even though subsequently her husband was made for the neder. Now, the Mishnah says a very well-known thing and a fascinating idea. Let's say a woman said that she wants to be a Nazir. And that's it. Her husband, let's say, lives somewhere else. But Heifa Labala, and the husband, without her knowing, without her knowing, the husband nullified the neder. She doesn't know that her husband nullified the neder. She thinks that she's still a Nazir. And on purpose, she continues to drink wine and touch dead bodies. No matter what, she doesn't get malchus because she's not a Nazir anymore. Even though she thinks she's a Nazir, but turns out that her husband nullified her neder, and therefore she's not a Nazir anymore. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Rabbi Huda says, I agree with you. She doesn't get malchus midairaisa, but tisboik malchus mardish. She should get malchus midrabanan. In other words, Rabbi Huda says that in her mind, she thinks she's a Nazir, and she's on purpose doing an Aveira. So therefore, let's give her Malchus Darabonim, which is a little bit easier than Malchus Daraisa. Malchus Daraisa, as you know, you got to get 39. Malchus Darabonim is, the Rabbanan decide how much this person can handle. But certainly, she should get some sort of punishment. Even though she's not a Nazir. Tana Rabbanim. The Pasuk says, Isha Hafeiram, when a husband is made for the neder, Hashem yislach lo. Even though the husband nullified the neder, Hashem should forgive her. What's that? What is the Torah talking about? Exactly. The woman that the husband nullified the neder. And she didn't know about it. And the pasuk is talking about it. And despite the fact that she's not a Nazir, if she violated her Naziris because she thinks she's a Nazir, she needs forgiveness and slicha. Let's define what kapara is. Kapara is when you do an Aveira, you're more
She she has to give a kippur, no?
She has to get a kapara, even though the husband was made for the neder. But
Yeah.
a kapara means to block that she doesn't that she doesn't be inclined to do another avera. Uslicha, she needs total forgiveness from the Eibishter.
Yeah.
Gemara, Rabbi Akiva eitzel pasuk zeh. When a Rabbi Akiva used to read this pasuk, probably Parshas Matos, he would read the Chumash. Haya boicha. Rabbi Akiva used to cry. Now, normally Rabbi Akiva is not a crier. He was a very stoic individual, and in fact, he was always laughing when other people were crying. But here, he took it very seriously to heart. He said, "A man decides he wants to eat chazer. He wants to eat chazer flesh. And he ate kosher flesh. He needs kapara slicha. Even though he didn't do anything wrong, but he wanted to do something wrong. And that's exactly the story over here. The woman thinks she's a nada and she wants to violate her naziris. It turns out she wasn't the nazir because her husband was nullified the neder. Nevertheless, the Torah says she needs kapara slicha. If someone wants to eat chazer flesh, and he actually ate chazer flesh, al achas kama v'kama. Certainly, you have to get a kapara, right? So certainly you have to get a kapara for that when you actually end up doing a avera. Obviously, we know in the Chumash it says that if you eat a chazer flesh, you get an avera. I mean, I don't need the Kal V'chomer to tell me that you're going to need a kapara for that. But sometimes a person, because of a sakanas nefashos, is permitted to eat chazer meat. You know, let's say his life is in danger, and he has hana, he enjoys it very much. He also needs a kapara.
Yeah.
He also needs a kapara slicha. I gotta say this: that my father was in the lager, not in the ghetto. He survived on a piece of horse meat for 2 weeks. So this is it's not a sakanas nefashos, but the Gemara, that's what the Gemara is trying to say. We need something a similar idea. The Torah says there's certain karbanos you bring. It's called an ashum tali. It's a protection if you did an avera, and you never know if you did an avera. You bring this carbon. V'lo yada, if you didn't find out you did this avera, v'ashem, and you feel guilty. V'nosa avoynai, you bring this carbon called an ashum tali, and you have some sort of forgiveness. And this is the second idea. A person who wants to eat kosher meat and ended up eating chazer meat. How do you know? Kagoin, for example, katichi, you have a piece of meat in front of you. Sofik shel shumam, maybe it's kosher meat. Sofik shel chelev, maybe it's the fats, the treifa fats. And a person eats the meat and doesn't know if he ate kosher or ate non-kosher. Amakra, the pasuk says you still need forgiveness. V'nosa avoynai, you should carry your sin. You need to forgive this. So if somebody who we're not even sure if he did an avera needs a kapara, a person who wants to eat chazer meat, and he actually ate chazer meat, al achas kama v'kama, this person certainly needs a kapara. Isa ben Yehuda says a similar idea. Again, it's the similar idea. Another pasuk that says you don't know and you didn't an avera, you have to get a kapara. A person wanted to eat kosher meat, and he ate non-kosher meat. Kagoin, for example, this is not one piece of meat. You don't know if it's kosher or it's not kosher. Here you have 2 pieces of meat. Shtei chatichas. You have 2 pieces of meat in front of you. Achas shel chelev, one is non-kosher meat. Achas shel shuman, and one is kosher meat. And you ate one of them, and you don't know which one you ate. So v'nasa avoyna, you need a kapara. Hamaskaven lalas biyade b'sar chazir, v'ola biyade b'sar chazir. If the person wanted to eat chazer meat, and he actually ate chazer meat, al achas kama kama, certainly you need a kapara. Al davazeh yidvu hadayvim. People who want to, it's like the Rosh Tevis, Yadav Ashav and Asein, that a person who's concerned about his averas has to express his guilt that he did an avera, even on these type of averas. So the Gemara gave 3 ideas. One, Rabbi Akiva to the Yad of Hashem, and then Isi ben Yehuda. V'chol hani lamali. Why do I need 3 examples of a person who did a suffix avera needs a kapara? Certainly, if you want to eat chazamit and you ate chazamit, you need a kapara. Tzarichet. I need all 3 examples. The I tanakabe isha. If it would just say by the woman, again, she was a nazir, and then her husband was made for the neder, and she doesn't know she's a nazir, and she doesn't know that the husband nullified the neder, and she continues to drink wine and matamala mesim.
Yeah.
So here, hasam who deboya kapara v'slicha. Such a woman needs kapara and slicha. Mishum the ikara li isura ikavan. She really wants to do an avera. She thinks that she's a nazir, and she's wants him to do an avera. Such a woman needs a kapara. But I would have thought avachaticha, but a piece of meat. Suffix shal chelev, suffix shal shumam. A person has a piece of meat. You don't know if it's kosher or not. You really want to eat it kosher. And you want to actually eat the kosher. You think it's kosher. So I would think, loy boya kapara slicha. You don't need a kapara slicha because your intention was not to do an avera. The itma hada, if I would tell you the case of the piece of meat that you need a kapara, the iki isura, because at the end of the day, you might have eaten a treifa piece of meat. Because at the end of it, you never found out if it's kosher or not. And if you ate it, even though your intention was to only eat kosher, but it turns out perhaps you ate non-kosher. So therefore, that's why you need a kapara over there. Aval isha, but the case of the woman who's not even a nazir, the heifer la bala, her husband was made for her neder. She's not even a nazir, klape shmai. In heaven, they know she's not a nazir because the husband nullified the neder. She thinks she's a neder, but she's not really a neder. The hatera, it's really, she's permitted to drink wine. Loy to buy a kapara slicha. I would think she doesn't need kapara slicha. So the Torah teaches you that she needs kapara and slicha. The it mahani tarti. If I would hear me these 2 cases that you need kapara slicha, one by the woman and one by the one piece of meat where you don't know if it's kosher or not, that you need kapara slicha. Havamina, I would have thought hani tarti who desagin lohaim behind kapara slicha. Over there, I would think that you don't. Over there, it helps that you could bring forgiveness, you could bring a carbon, you could do tshuva for it. The loy ikave isura, it wasn't established that you had an isser there. You have one piece of meat, you don't know if it's kosher or not. So over there, I could see you can go to shul and klap al chet, and you'll get a kapara. Aval, but in the case of shtei chetichas, you have 2 pieces of meat. Achas shel chelev, achas shel shuman. One is kosher, one's not kosher, and you don't know which one you ate. The ikaba isur, but you knew for a fact that at one point there's an established isur over there, and you stuck your hand and took one, and you don't know which one it is. You can never get a kapara slicha. It's like a big mezid that you did, and therefore I wouldn't think there's kapara slicha. There's no difference. There is a kapara slicha as long as you didn't for sure do an avera on purpose. Then you could get a kapara slicha with a regular, easier type of tshuva. Okay, do Gemara.
He thought that he took the right one, so he doesn't need a slicha.
I would think that he doesn't need Kamash Malan. He has to bring a carbon Ashan Tali, but he gets a slicha after he brings the carbon.
Yeah.
Rabba Baba Chona said in the name of the Yochanan. Here, the Torah, he's saying that 2 people can do the same thing, and some people are called a rasha, and some people are called a tzaddik. How is it possible that 2 people do the same thing, and one is a rasha and one's a tzaddik? Ma'adik siv. What does the pasuk say? Ki yesharim darchei Hashem. Whatever Hashem puts out as a path, a roadway, it's smooth, it's straight. But nevertheless, tzaddikim yelkaman. Tzaddikim can walk in the path, and they don't stumble. They actually accomplish something by going in that path. Upoishem, those who are sinners and transgressors, yikashlubam, will stumble in that same path. Means, what is that talking about? Marshal, that's an example. Shnei bnei adam, you have 2 people. They do the carbon pesach. They roast their meat. Echad, one roasts his meat. Achaloi l'shem mitzvah. When it comes Seder night, he's eating that roasted meat because he wants to be mekayim the mitzvah of eating carbon pesach. The echad achaloi, and one eats it l'shum achila gasa. The other person, he's eating the meat because he's He's an achila gasi. He just wants to enjoy a piece of meat, and he's not thinking about the mitzvah. The one that ate it l'shem mitzvah, tzadikim yelchabar. He's a tzaddik going in the right path of Hashem, doing a mitzvah. The one that ate an achila gasa, he's a sinner that stumbled and then did an avera with the mitzvah. That's what the Gemara is saying. It's almost like
he doesn't look for a mitzvah. He looks for the avera.
He looks for the avera, but he's doing a mitzvah. It's like somebody who goes to a Pesach program. Maybe that's what they're talking about over here. That some people mach Pesach and he's eating a seder. Some people go to some crazy program. The same thing, but maybe he's doing an avera. So the Gemara says that's true. That you can't say that. Omar later Shlaka says, "Hi, Rosh Karisle. You call this person who's eating the carbon Pesach la achila gasa, a gluttonous type of eating. Is he called a Russian evil person? He didn't do the mitzvah in the proper way. But Pesach miya ka'avid, he's still yaitz the mitzvah of eating carbon Pesach. Why would I call him a poishim, somebody who did an avera? He didn't do an avera. He just didn't eat it l'shem mitzvah. Elam busha l'shnei b'nei adam. There's two people, and two people are in the house. Each one has his wife and his sister-in-law, his wife's sister, with him in the same house. They're living somehow in the same house. This one is living with his wife and his sister. And then one ends up, he closes the light, and Zen is damalai ishtay. This one had tashmish with his wife. And the other one, he wanted to do tashmish, he wanted to have relations. Instead of having relations with his wife, he had relations with the sister of his wife. The one that Hashem made it that he had his wife. This is the tzaddik who goes in the right path. The one that actually was a mizana with his wife's sister. He that stumbled.
He made a mistake. He made a mistake. It was dark. He made a mistake.
So that's the Gemara's question. Mi dami, can you compare that? Anan kaminan chadederach. We're talking about they're both doing the same thing. Then you say one is a tzaddik, one's a rasha. Here, over here, shnei drochim. They're two different things. One is actually sleeping with his wife, and one shluft with his wife's sister. So he made a mistake, but he's not doing the same thing as the tzaddik. So you can't say that's called. We're trying to find a case where two people do the same thing. One is going to be a tzaddik and one's going to be a rasha. Ella, it's the same thing. Ella Moshe leLoit l'shtei b'naisav. Loit and his two daughters. Loit was mizana his two daughters. His two daughters get a mitzvah and Loit gets an aveira. They're both the same thing. Haim sheniskaven mitzvah. The two daughters were makaven mitzvah. They thought the whole world was destroyed. Tzadikim yelchabam. They're called tzaddikim that go in the right path. But he wanted to just be with Bizana with his daughters. Sinners will stumble in the same path. So the Gemara says, how do you know? Maybe Lot also had a mind to do the mitzvah. Maybe he had a mind that he thought the world was going to be destroyed. He wants to give children to start the world again after the destruction of Sodom. How do you know that Lot had a eye?
Well, twice the same thing.
But how do you know that Lot was an adult?
He did it with both. The first time I could understand, but not the second time. That's what Torah says.
Maybe I didn't know that they're going to become pregnant right away. So maybe he did it with one and then he did it with the other. So, but you have to look at where he comes from. When he first departed from Avraham Avinu, if you read the pasuk carefully, it hints that Lot had an eye to do for znus, for adultery. The pasuk says Vayisa Lot, and Lot lifted his eyes. And there's another pasuk that says Vatisa Eshes Adoinav Eseneha. By the Potiphar's wife, she lifted his eyes to do znus with Yosef. So you see that the Tisa and Yisa both refer to Vayar, and he saw. Pasuk says Lot saw the Kikar Yarden. There's another pasuk that says Vayar Oisa Shechem ben Chamor. So Shechem ben Chamor was trying to be mizana with Dinah. So you see the yar and yar by Loit also both refer to znus. Loit saw as called Kikar Hayadin. He saw where the town of Sodom, the cities of Sodom, the plain, a beautiful place by the Jordan. So a kikar, what's this language kikar? So that is marames that hints that also about znus. The Torah, the in Tanakh, when it talks about znus, it says ki be'ad isha zoyna ad kikar lachab. That the when you mizana with a woman, it leads you to even take the food out of your mouth to pay for the woman. A person who sacrifices his parnasa, so to speak, if he has an adulterous life. So we see kikar refers to znus. So therefore, when Lot looked at the kikar, he was actually looking for znus. Kichula mashke. He saw that it was so fertile, the land of Sodom. So that what does this mean, mashke? Mashke also could refer to znus. Lot saw znus there. How do you know? Because the pasuk says, "Elcha achra me ahavai." I'll go after my lovers. Noisnei lachme, who give me my bread. Umei my water. Tsamrei my wool. Tsamrei my wool. Pishti my flax. Shamnei my oil. Uvishikuyoi and my drink. So lovers and drink go together. So that's what he was looking. He saw that there was good bars there, there were good women there, and that's why he chose to depart from Avram to go to Sodom. So his whole outlook in life was to do znus. So when he actually was mizana with his daughters, when he was mizana with his daughters, then he had in mind to do znus. So the Gemara asked, but he was drunk. He was drunk. He was an oinus when he did it. So you're right. So I think this is what we're saying. When he got up, the first after he was mizana with daughter number one, it says there's a pintala on the word kuma when he got up. Shel bechira when he slept with the older one. Loima shebeshichva leyada when he slept with his oldest daughter, he had no idea he was sleeping with his oldest daughter. Ava bakuma when he sobered down and got up, yada he know. So the Gemara says my habeleilam evet. So what did he do wrong? When he was actually sleeping with his oldest daughter, he wasn't thinking about anything. He was an oinus. He was drunk. Whatever happened. You can't change that. And says the Gemara, nafkamina the lepanya achrina. The next night, loy iboya lemishter chama. He shouldn't have drank wine. He was drinking wine the second night so that he could get drunk again and sleep with and hope maybe in his drunkenness would sleep with his youngest daughter. And we see that he had looked always towards Nus, and that's the reason why he's separated primarily from Avraham Avinu. So we see one act in the Torah where two people do it. One had L'Shem Shemayim, and they got schar. They got Lot's daughters, got unbelievable schar. We know Mashiach comes from Lot's daughters. King David HaMelech comes from Lot's daughters. And Lot will always be the Russia because of that act, the same act.
Yeah. They made him drunk, so there's not his fault. It's their fault. The daughter's fault.
Yes, but the next night he shouldn't have drank. If he saw that if he was so careful not to be mizana with his daughters, then after the first night when he knew that he slept with the oldest daughter, he shouldn't have drinking more wine.
How could the act that they do the second night be considered a mitzvah when he's doing the same exact act? They knew what they were doing. They knew it was their father.
Yeah, but
they made him drunk. That's why
the
they
difference.
They
Did the same exact thing he did.
Yeah, but the point is, but when their intention,
It's their fault.
they thought that the world was totally destroyed. It was Armageddon.
And he knew that for a fact it wasn't.
Well, he didn't know. He didn't care. Their intention was to do znus with their father because they figured that the world was destroyed, and they're the only survivors of the world, and it's up to them to procreate. So that's what the girls thought.
But that's not his father's fault. Because the daughters did it. They made him drunk. The next night, they made him more drunk. So he didn't know. He said he didn't know, but if he got up. He didn't know when he lie down. He didn't know when he got up. He was so drunk.
Yes, but he could have stopped himself if he wasn't totally l'shem shemayim, he shouldn't be sleeping with his daughters. And since after the first night, he knew he slept with one daughter, and he knows that he doesn't think l'shem shemayim, he thinks nus, he should not get drunk the second night. He should refuse, he should say to his daughters, don't give me any wine. I don't want to get drunk. So
but it says, the Rashi said that he didn't know when he would lay down, he didn't know when he got up. He was so drunk.
yes, but when he got up, when he sobered
When
up,
he got up, he didn't know either. He was so drunk.
Ava Bakuma, you see in the
Maybe
Gemara,
he didn't realize that he was going to get drunk again.
Ava Bakuma Yada. When he got up, when he sobered up, he knew. Maybe he is the type of person that gets drunk quickly, but the Gemara says when he did get up, Yada, he knew he slept with his wife, with his daughter. Darash Rava says a pasuk. My diksiv. How do you interpret this pasuk? Ach nifsha mikiryas oiv. When you have a argument with your brother, it's like separating from a strong fortress. The worst fights are family fights. We go to Amid Beis, Umidyanim, and when you have a altercation, is kibriach amen, like a lock in a palace. So he homiletically interprets this about what Lot did, and what Lot departing from Avram. Ach nifsha mikiryas ois, the brother that has a fight basically is separating from this fortress. Zeloit shapiris me'Avram. That refers to Lot that's separated from Avram. Umidyanim kibriach amen. The fight that we have is like a lock on the palace. Because of Lot, shehitul midyadim kibrichim ba'amen. He put a fight between the Jews and the nation that come out of Lot, which is Ammon and Moav, kibrichim ba'amen, like a lock in a palace. Because we know that from Lot's family, lo yave amoni moyavi kal Hashem. God said, "I don't get me gerim from that nation, from the males of that nation." So we see that Lot's action for where Lot comes caused that his children should cause such a fight against the Jewish people that God declared that I will never accept a ger from Ammon and Moav. Ammon and Moav, as you know, are the sons of the offspring of Lot when he had relations with his daughters, and those two nations we don't accept gerim. Darash Rava v'yitem Rabbi Yitzchak. Ma'adik Siv, what does the pasuk says? L'sava yavakesh nikrod. Okay, so for if you have a desire, you're asking for separation. And every like snarl, right? You snarl against any wisdom. The Saba Yavakesh Nifrad, that refers to Lot, because Lot, through his desire of znus, creates a separation between us and the offspring of Lot. V'chol tishiyah yiskala. In every place of wisdom, niskala koloyne b'vate kinishiyas uvemeter midrasha. In every shul and every base medrash, we're always learning about not to accept the offspring of Lot into our nation. The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Amayavi Asurin, Am and Amav are asur to accept them as gerim. To marry, you could accept them as gerim. What I mean is they can't marry a Jewish girl, the Yisurin Isra Olam, and that lasts forever. Unlike, let's say, a Mitzri, which it goes for 3 generations, an Amen Amoyavi can never marry into a Jewish girl. Amar Ula said, Tamar Zinsa Zimri Ninsina. In Chumash, you learn Tamar had adulterous relationship with her father-in-law Yehuda, and Zimri and Zina. And Zimri had an adulterous relationship, and he was killed by Pinchas. Tamar Zinsa, when Tamar, who was Mizana with her father-in-law, she l'shem shemayim, she wanted an offspring from the family of Yaakov, a family of Yehuda. Yatsu Memeno Melachim Neviim. We have kings. David HaMelech comes from him, and Neviim. The Neviim come from Yeshaya ben Amitz, come from the prophet, come from Tamar's offspring. Zina, but Zimri sinned with adulterous Naflek Alav Kamar Vabas Misra. Because of him, tens of thousands of Jewish people lost their lives in a plague. One more piece of Gemara and then we'll stop. Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak. Now, Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak makes a very interesting comment, which discusses that sometimes a person does something that's not the Ratzoin Hashem. It's not an Aveira. It's not Aveira we use the word Avera loosely to mean a sin, but Avera doesn't mean sin. Avoin means sin. Avera means not the Ratzon Hashem. God doesn't want you to be there. Let's say to go to a comedy club where they're saying dirty jokes. So that God doesn't, that's not the Ratzon Hashem for you to be there. Can I say what Avera you're doing? I can't precisely say which of the 613 you're over. However, let's say you're going there so that you can befriend your brother who went off the derech, and you're trying to bring him back. So your whole purpose of doing this thing, which is neged Ratzon Hashem, is in order to do a positive effect. So then that's a good thing to do. And that has the same weight, that has the same power as a mitzvah. That's what Rav Nachman Yitzchak says. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Gedola Avera Lishma, it's a great and it's a good thing, an Avera, something that's not the Ratzon Hashem, but you're doing it for a positive reason, mitzvah shalai lishma. Then somebody who does a mitzvah is not thinking about why he's doing the mitzvah. Says the Gemara, wait a second, if is Avera bigger than a mitzvah shalai lishma, a person should always learn shalai lishma. Don't think about why you're doing the mitzvah, why you're learning Torah. Do it, and eventually you'll grow into it, and it'll grow with you, and you'll do it for a good reason. A person should learn Torah mitzvahs even without good intentions. Without doing it good, you'll eventually come to do it with good intentions. Ella, you have to correct what Rav Nachman Yitzchak says. It's like an avera that you do l'shem for a positive effect is like a mitzvah. They're on the same level as a mitzvah that you do without thinking, shloi l'shma, without for the right reason. Now, where do you learn this avera? So this will end over here. There was a story in Tanakh where there was this great general Sisera, and he was destroying Klal Yisrael, and this woman called Yael, he was a monster of a man. This Yael slept with her. A Jewish woman slept with her to weaken him, and not only he slept with her once, but he slept with this human being 7 times in one night to weaken him, and then she knifed him. So that's what the Tanakh tells us. Now, she didn't do an avera, because if a woman is mizana with a goy, it's not really such an avera, because a woman doesn't do an act when she's having relations. She's just a karka oilam is the expression. She's just lying there. So we learn from there, the pasuk says, Tevarech minashim Yoel. Yoel should be blessed, Eshes Chever HaKeni, the wife of Chever HaKeni, Menashim Ba'oil Tevarech. She should be blessed like the greatest women of the tent. Who are the greatest women that we know? Ma Noshim Sheba'oil. Who are the greatest women of the tent? Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah. She should be blessed like Sarah Rivka Rachel Leah, the mothers of the Jewish people. This Yael, because she did this avera, but it was lishma. Rabbi Yochanan says Sheva Be'ilas Baal Oisei Rasha Ba'oisei Shah. 7 times he did it. He unloaded, released, did it again with this Yael. Shnema Pasuk says Bein Raglei Kar Nafal Shachav. So therefore, we should see what kind of sacrifice this Yael did for the sake of Klal Yisrael to kill Sisera. So then, the Gemara last question: how could you say that she did an avera? How could you say she did an avera, but and it was lishma that she did it l'shem shemayim v'alkamisyanya me'ila delay? Didn't she enjoy sleeping with this guy? I mean, she must have enjoyed something from it. Rabbi Yochanan, no, she had absolutely no enjoyment from it. Anything a Rasha does that's good, that's only evil in the eye by tzaddikim. They don't feel the Rasha when he's trying to do good. Shenema, the pasuk says by Lavam, God says, don't speak to Yaakov when he was chasing after Yaakov. God appears to Lavan and says, don't tell Yaakov anything good or bad. So the Gemara asks, Bishlama Ra Shapir. I understand why God doesn't want Lavan to say anything bad to Yaakov. Elatoiva, my life. Why shouldn't Lavan say something nice to Yaakov, bless him, or do something nice? Allah, the reason is, Shmamina, Toivase, even when a Rasha does something good, Rahi, it's considered evil to a tzaddik. Shmamina is a proof that although maybe Sisera tried to do Be'ila in a loving way, it was impossible for Yoel to have enjoyment from such a Be'ila because he's such a Rasha, and any good that he's doing is considered abominable to the tzaddik yoel, and therefore it was a total avera lishma for a positive purpose. So you learn avera lishma is as great as a mitzvah shaloi lishma.
Very small.